Welcome back to another episode of the Deep Six Wrestling Podcast. It is Saturday, August 27th, and it is Ryan here to do a little Impact Power Hour here. It is a solo episode, so yeah, we're just going to get right on into this. But before we get too far into the Impact stuff, make sure to check out our YouTube at Deep Six Wrestling Podcast. Also, make sure to follow us on Twitter at Deep Six Wrestling, and subscribe to the podcast on any of the different platforms that we are on. So yeah, a little bit of Impact news. It was reported at the end of last week that Scott Armstrong, former ref for WWE for several years, has signed on full-time to be part of Impact now as both a ref and a producer, so that's pretty cool. And we got to see him ref again this week. So yeah, cool stuff. Also, it was announced on AEW Dynamite this week that the Motor City Machine Guns would be teaming up with Jay Lethal at All Out against Wardlow and FTR. So that will be another pretty cool thing for Impact. So let's get on into this. And also, it was also reported that the Good Brothers contracts officially end this weekend with Impact, and there's no word on if they have been extended or not, but they also are working on a New Japan agreement till the end of Wrestle Kingdom, and it's been speculated that they could stick around in Impact throughout that time just because of the working relationship with New Japan and Impact. Think most likely if they are going to stick around, it's not going to be too much longer full time at least. I think their goal has been with Impact to go to New Japan full time. They're going to be needed, or they're doing at least most of the September tour in Japan, so they won't be around for Victory Road. I'd assume they'll be part of Royal Quest as well in the UK. I'm not sure if they've already been announced for that or not. And then I would assume they'll also be part of World Tag League whenever that is. And of course Wrestle Kingdom as well they'll be part of, I'd assume. So yeah, interesting stuff, but we will see what develops. Anyway, let's get on into the episodes. So we had BTI first. BTI match was Ace Austin and Hikuleo of Bullet Club versus Zicky Dice and Johnny Swinger. When you think of these teams, obviously I think you assume that this would not be too much of a competitive match. Zicky Dice and Johnny Swinger, while they are comedy characters for the most part, whenever they're on BTI, they do seem to get a lot of offense in. The match started off with Swinger being very hesitant to work against Hikuleo, tagging in Zicky Dice, and Zicky didn't want to tag in with, or didn't want to wrestle Hikuleo, so Hikuleo forced him in. But throughout the match, it was pretty competitive. Bullet Club would take advantage numerous times, but a few times Zicky and Johnny Swinger would double team to get in control for a bit. Match went pretty long for a Zicky Dice and Johnny Swinger match, but not for a BTI match. It was about normal time, and Hikuleo and Ace Austin pick up with the win, with Hikuleo trying to taking down, I should say, Johnny Swinger to prevent him from getting involved at the end, and Ace Austin hitting the fold on Zicky Dice. Overall, I thought this was a fun opening, and yeah, this would get us into our main show. The main show started off with Mia Yim and Jordynne Grace versus VXT, represented by Deonna Purrazzo and Chelsea Green. It is a Knockouts Tag Team Championship match. VXT, the current champions. And I thought this was a really good match. Mia has looked extremely strong since showing up in Impact. Deonna and Chelsea as a team have just been phenomenal. And this story basically was like, would Jordynne and Mia work together as a team properly? Would they mesh well, or would they have miscommunications? Would there be issues between them? And there really weren't issues between them. It was just Deonna and Chelsea are just so much more in sync because they are an actual tag team, that they just knew exactly what to do, when to do it. Chelsea and Deonna kept on working together as a team, while Mia and Jordynne would kind of just occasionally do double team maneuvers or try to get each other out of spots. But for the most part, they were working as their own single competitors for the most part, and that's what hurt them. Cool spots throughout here. But the ending here, Jordynne and Mia finally get control. Jordynne has her hot tag moment. She lays out both members of VXT. VXT gets thrown out to the outside, and Mia and Jordynne go for dives at the same time. Jordynne connects on Deonna and throws Deonna back into the ring. Chelsea dodges Mia and hits her in the head with her braced up hand, and that would take Mia out. Jordynne didn't notice this, and Chelsea grabbed Jordynne, hit her with the rope to disorient her before getting in and hitting the pendulum, which commentary called, it was called the Dew Collector, and Deonna pins Jordynne. So yeah, good match to start off the show, and I think the right team won here. Deonna and Chelsea just got the titles. They're an actual tag team. They should keep on pushing. After this, we get a Violent by Design promo about how the sickness has gotten too far and too strong, but tonight they would have to try to begin to take it out. After this, we get a Josh Alexander and Vincent segment. Josh is getting wrapped up and ready to go for a match tonight. Vincent says that this is just showing him more and more that Impact does not care about Josh, and that they are trying to wear him down and run him into the ground like they do with every champion, and that he deserves better, and he needs friends to take some of the blows for him, and that if he just would join Honor No More, or get some friends like Honor No More, that this could be solved. Josh says that he is going to lay out Vincent later tonight for their match, and he's going to enjoy doing so. After this, we get Mike Bennett versus Karl Anderson. The stipulation here is that if Karl Anderson wins, Maria is banned from ringside for the title match between the Kingdom, or the OGK, and Bullet Club for the tag titles. This was a really fun match. Commentary kept on talking about how this is the first ever singles match. I don't know if it's just an Impact or worldwide, but commentary talks about how they've had that Karl Anderson and Doc Gallows have feuded with the OG Kingdom for several years. They kept on talking about Maria and Karl Anderson's gifs and memes about each other, or about themselves, back in 2015, and Mike was controlling most of this match. He kept on just being so much faster than Karl Anderson and being able to counter. He knew his game plan very well. And I think that, again, goes to this whole idea that these guys have feuded and been against each other so many times in the ring as tag competitors. They're going to know each other's stuff. Maria, towards the end of this match, would get involved, distracting the ref, which would allow Matt Taven to come out and attack Karl Anderson. But right behind him was Doc Gallows, who has returned, choke slams Taven on the apron. Mike Bennett would go for a roll-up on Karl Anderson. He would kick out of it, and then Karl Anderson would end up hitting the gun stun for the win, and Maria is banned from ringside. After the match, the Good Brothers go backstage. They meet up with Scott, and Scott says that, hey, good job, Gallows, you look healthy, and because of that, next week you guys will be putting your titles on the line against the OG Kingdom, and hopefully you can get them to stop running their mouths, and knock them down a peg. Again, really good match. I think it's going to be interesting whether or not they do a title change next week. We will have to see. Backstage, Savannah Evans is getting looked at by the doctor. Tasha asks how's she doing. The doctor says that there might be some internal damage, but he doesn't know. So Tasha storms out. Gia is out there and asks for an update. Tasha says that she's not doing too well because she's not out there with her, and she blames Killer Kelly for this. And as this is going on, Killer Kelly is sneaking up behind Tasha and then puts the killer choke or killer clutch on Tasha to choke her out for a bit before throwing her to the ground, and says that when she is going for Tasha the next time, she won't do it sneakily. She'll do it right in front of her, so she is prepared. Thought this was a good segment. And yeah, I think Tasha and Killer Kelly should have a very good match against each other. After this, we get Jason Hotch versus Bhupinder Gujjar. Brian Myers is on commentary for this. We get a mini video package for Jason Hotch to explain who he is. He was one of the 2 gut check winners this year at the Arnold Classic that signed a Impact contract. Brian Myers is out there and complains that, he should be getting title matches and main events since he is a champion, but instead they're limiting him to squash matches, as he calls it, and matches of the lower mid-card. Bhupinder easily defeats Hotch, and Brian Myers gets into the ring afterwards. He says, I know you think you deserve a shot at this, but you don't. But if you want a shot, you can get it right now. Myers attacks him. Scott Armstrong was the ref for Bhupinder's match. He pulls Brian Myers off of Bhupinder to scold him and to try to stop it. Bhupinder would counter, take control, lay out Brian Myers, and then do a pin on Myers, which Scott Armstrong does a very fast count for. And Bhupinder grabs the belt, holds it up, and gets out of there. Commentary makes sure to point out that this wasn't an official match. But I thought this was a fun little segment. And it continues the Bhupinder versus Brian Myers feud, and also gives some more character development to Bhupinder. Deonna and Chelsea go backstage and meet up with Gail Kim. Deonna says that she should be the new number 1 contender for Jordynne Grace's title everything can go right with the world again, and the champ can return. Gail agrees that Deonna and Chelsea have looked really good together, and that she does deserve something since she did pin the champ. But since Masha Slamovich has been signed, she hasn't lost a match. So next week, Masha and Deonna will fight it out, and whoever wins is the new number one contender for Jordynne Grace at Bound for Glory. Backstage, also, Bhupinder is walking around with the belt. Scott Armstrong catches up to him and says that he's been impressed with Bhupinder. He's been watching him, but it was an official match, so he isn't the true digital media champion, and Scott wants him to give him the belt so he can return it to Brian Myers. Bhupinder says no. If Brian wants the belt so bad, he has to come to him, so they can settle it there themselves. To which Scott doesn't agree to it, and looks disappointed that Bhupinder is acting this way. Again, I think Bhupinder is showing that he's gotten so annoyed with Brian Myers that he's willing to try to stoop down to Brian Myers' level, and I'm interested to see where this will go. After this is Josh Alexander versus Vincent. This wasn't as long as I figured it would be. I thought you'd give it a little more time. Vincent had the upper hand early, but Josh dominated the rest of the way. Picks up the win with the C4 spike. And afterwards, Eddie Edwards comes out and basically explains to Josh that he knows that Impact is running him to the ground as well. And that's why he tried to change Impact for the better by joining Honor No More, and that once Honor No More gets all the titles, they'll be able to change Impact for the better, and to change it in their image. He talks about how Josh shouldn't be out there for everybody else's enjoyment, because once they realize that that's all they want is somebody to fight, Impact is going to keep on running him into the ground. And then once they lose, they'll discard you, and everybody will forget about you. And that's what they did to Eddie, and that's what they've done to all the other champs. And so it seems like he's going to offer Josh a spot in Honor No More. He says, you can join us, and, you know, at Bound for Glory, we'll still have our match, and it will just be the best wrestler. There won't be any issues, because we're allies. But as he's doing this, Heath comes from behind, hits him with the wake-up call, and yeah, Josh doesn't get a chance to respond. I mean, I think Josh is gonna not agree with to join Honor No More. It wouldn't make too much sense. Yeah. After this, Raj Singh and Shera are backstage. Raj is cutting a promo about how Josh Alexander is lucky that Shera got injured, but once that Shera is healed, he's coming after Josh, and Josh needs to be afraid. But this is interrupted by yelling, and the camera goes away and looks and tries to see who's yelling. We find Macklin and Moose yelling at each other. Moose saying that last week didn't go to plan. The plan wasn't to eliminate me early by roll up. We were supposed to get rid of everybody else, and then best man wins. Sammy, I guess, hears this, attacks them both, and all three go out. It's a 2-on-1 beatdown, and Moose and Macklin get the upper hand. They wrap Sammy in barbed wire as they keep on beating him down, and they leave him outside. Then we get a Masha Slamovich video package before we get Alisha Edwards versus Jessicka in Jessica's debut match. or as the commentary calls it, the launch party for Jessicka. This was a fine match. I think Jessicka has some good music. At least she's not doing the whole like Susie gimmick of I don't know how to wrestle. She's doing most of her own stuff still, which is good. And the crowd really enjoys it. So, yeah, good stuff. She wins. Yeah. After this, we get a Mickie James video package, and commentary says that next week Mickie James has a big announcement to be made. Then, right before the main event is about to start, Sami Callihan comes back into the ring, grabs a mic. He's still covered in barbed wire and blood, and he challenges Moose and Macklin to a barbed wire massacre match at Victory Road, which is made official by the end of the night. This would take us to our main event. It is Violent by Design, all three of them, Eric Young, Diener, and Joe Doering versus Time Machine, KUSHIDA, Chris Sabin, and Alex Shelley. And this was just a fantastic match. Again, I think it's safe to say, in my opinion, that the Motor City Machine Guns have been having a fantastic year with Impact. They've just been knocking it out of the park in singles matches, in tag matches, in trios matches, in any match that they're in. They've just been knocking it out of the park this year. Violent by Design has had some really good matches with Motor City Machine Guns now, with KUSHIDA, with the Good Brothers. They've had good matches with basically everybody this year. Eric Young, I think, has been slept on a lot this year, and really since he's come back to Impact, people, I think, forget just how good he is. And I think that was partially done because of how he was treated in WWE, but he's been on a roll. While Violent by Design, I think, has been a weird stable that's booking has been weird. I do think that they are capable of having great matches, and this was another one of those moments. It was very difficult to see who was going to end up winning this match. Both teams looked in control throughout it. They just kept on swapping who was in control. Joe Doering had a long run of control just because of his size and power compared to the other three. Eric Young had a long stretch where he was in charge for Violent by Design. KUSHIDA had a good run in charge. The Mercy Machine Guns then started to work together and take control. And yeah, Time Machine would pick up the win, pinning Diener. And yeah, I thought this was a really strong ending to the show. I would give it a thumbs up. And we did get a few matches, there are a few things announced for next week. Like I said, Mickie James's big announcement, Masha versus Deonna for the number one contendership for Jordynne Grace's Knockouts title at Bound for Glory, and the Good Brothers versus the OG Kingdom for the tag titles, which has been announced as the opening match for Impact next week. Like I said, I thought this was a really good episode. I think it was bookended by pretty good matches. So we do know, like I said, only 2 matches for next week, not much else, which is weird, a little bit weird considering normally they give us like 3 or 4 matches, but I'm assuming they're going to announce more as the week goes on. They have announced a lot of stuff that was going to be taped yesterday and today for these shows, including Aussie Open versus Mercy Machine Guns, Mercy Machine Guns versus the Good Brothers, We also have Mickey James appearing, and yeah, should be interesting to see what goes on. And yeah, stay safe. I'll talk to you next week. And yeah, thanks for listening.